I used to think silence meant peace. Now I know better. Our home is quiet, but not the comforting kind. It's the brittle silence of two people who forgot how to speak to each other. After 12 years of marriage, we've perfected the routine. Wake up, share a kitchen, pretend everything's fine. My husband, Daniel, buries himself in spreadsheets and late meetings. I fill the rest with laundry, half-eaten dinners, and the growing weight of feeling invisible. I don't remember the last time he looked at me like I was more than a fixture in the house. The upstairs bathroom had been leaking for weeks. Daniel kept promising to call someone. He didn't.
So I did.
That's how the handyman arrived, on a Tuesday morning, while the kettle hissed and my nerves itched from another night of one-sided conversation. He was younger than I expected. 25, maybe 26. Wore a faded blue shirt and carried himself with quiet confidence. He introduced himself, Mark, and nodded politely before getting to work. I offered coffee. He declined with a soft smile. For the first 20 minutes, we didn't speak. I busied myself wiping already clean counters, pretending not to notice how efficiently he moved, how his hands never hesitated. But when the wrench clanged against the tub, I jumped. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said, his voice low, easy. I shrugged. "This house startles me all the time." He chuckled, then glanced toward me. "Nice place, though. Feels lived in." I almost laughed. That was one way to put it. That afternoon, I found myself watching the clock, wondering when he'd come back. Not because of him, exactly, but because when he was there, I didn't feel like I was vanishing. Daniel came home late, again. Said the project launch was draining. I nodded, slid him a reheated plate, and listened as he ate in silence, staring at his phone. He didn't ask about the repairs. Didn't ask about my day. The next morning, Mark returned with new parts. I opened the door in my robe, hair unbrushed. His eyes met mine, not with judgment, just awareness. He nodded. "Morning." Something in the way he said it made me feel seen. Not admired. Not pursued. Just acknowledged. Later, as he packed his tools, he asked, "Mind if I come back tomorrow to finish up?" "Won't charge extra, just want to make sure it's done right." I told him that was fine. More than fine. When he left, the silence returned, but it felt different this time. Like the house had inhaled something it wasn't ready to exhale. I stood in the doorway long after he'd gone, unsure what I was waiting for. I wasn't looking for anything. I want to make that clear. But sometimes, when you're starving long enough, even kindness feels like a feast. The next morning, I found myself putting on mascara. Not much, just enough to look less tired. I told myself it was habit, not intention. Old reflexes. Mark arrived at 10 sharp, toolbox in hand and sleeves rolled to the elbows. He greeted me with a smile, not wide, just familiar. Like we were somewhere between strangers and something else. As he worked upstairs, I stayed nearby, folding towels that didn't need folding. Our conversations were brief. Weather, water pressure, the squeaky stair outside the guest room. But there was an ease to them, as if neither of us wanted to fill the silence with anything unnecessary. Then he complimented my lemon rosemary muffins, which I had left cooling on the counter. "These are amazing," he said between bites. "Did you bake them?" I almost blushed.
Yeah.
"Just something I do when I'm thinking." He smiled. "Then you must think a lot." It was nothing. Just words. But I hadn't been complimented like that in years, without agenda, without calculation. Just recognition. By the third visit, the job was mostly done, but he lingered longer. We talked more. He asked about the house, the old wallpaper in the hallway, the crooked garden gate I'd tried to fix myself. I told him about my son, now away at college, and the silence his absence left behind. He listened without checking a phone or glancing away. No one did that anymore. "Seems like you keep everything running," he said once, almost offhandedly. The place, the stories, the quiet. It struck something in me. I didn't respond. Later that day, I was chopping onions in the kitchen when I felt it building, this ache behind my ribs. It wasn't about Mark. Not really. It was the sudden realization that I'd gone years without being seen. When he stepped into the kitchen, I wiped my eyes quickly. Sorry, I muttered. The onions. He paused. You okay? I nodded. Too quickly. He didn't push. Just looked at me for a moment and said, You deserve someone who asks if you're okay before assuming you are. It was the gentlest thing I'd heard in years.
I didn't know what to say.
My throat burned, but I swallowed it down. Mark just nodded again and walked back upstairs. That night, Daniel fell asleep with the TV remote still in his hand. I sat beside him, watching him breathe, wondering when we had stopped reaching for each other. I wasn't falling for Mark. It wasn't like that.
It was more dangerous than that.
Because what he offered wasn't love. It was awareness, attention, humanity, something my marriage had forgotten to give. The rain came hard that afternoon, unplanned, uninvited. Thunder cracked just as Mark pulled into the driveway, wipers struggling against the downpour. He was there to double-check the upstairs pipes after I'd mentioned a rattle in the walls. Storm's not letting up anytime soon, he said as he stepped inside, soaked at the edges. The power flickered, then died. Just like that, silence, dimness, and the smell of wet earth sneaking through the open door. Looks like I'm stuck for a bit, he said, half a smile on his face. We lit candles. The living room took on a glow I hadn't seen in years, soft, golden, quiet. The kind of quiet that invites confessions. Mark set down his tools, then sat, uninvited but not unwelcome, on the edge of the couch. I sat across from him, mug in hand, knees tucked up. The thunder outside made the room feel smaller. I don't know who started the real conversation. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was me. But somewhere between lightning strikes, I told him things I hadn't told anyone in years. That I missed being asked how I was. That I missed being touched without expectation. That I sometimes forgot what joy felt like. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. His face didn't flinch. He didn't rush to fix anything. Do you ever wonder if you're living someone else's life? I asked. All the time, he said. But sometimes I wonder if it's just mine unlived. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was full, thick with breath, and the weight of everything left unsaid. Then, without warning, my hand brushed his. Just fingers, barely touching. But it lit a fuse.
He looked at me.
Not in a way that claimed me. In a way that asked, waited. I leaned in. And for a moment, just a moment, the world went still. No thunder. No marriage. No years of distance and aching silence. Just the warmth of someone seeing me. Our foreheads almost touched. Are you sure? He whispered. But I wasn't. I thought I was. I wanted to be. Yet in that breathless pause, something snapped me back. A sound, a flash. No, not from outside. From within. I saw the photo on the mantel. My son at age 10, grinning with ice cream all over his shirt. I saw the wedding band on my finger, dull with time, but still there. Still real. I pulled back. I'm sorry, I said, voice trembling. He didn't look angry.
Just sat in a way that matched mine.
He nodded. You don't have to apologize. He reached out and hugged me, gentle, brief. No lingering. No second try. The storm outside began to fade. But inside me, something had cracked open. Not because of what almost happened, but because of what didn't.
Mark didn't come back after that day.
There were no excuses, no awkward texts, no lingering goodbyes. Just silence. This time not the brittle, resentful kind I knew so well, but something softer. A silence born from understanding, respect, maybe even mercy. The pipes didn't rattle anymore, and neither did I.
Not in the same way.
Daniel never noticed. He didn't ask why I stopped waiting up for him, or why the muffin stopped coming, or why I suddenly kept my phone face down. He was wrapped in his world of deadlines and dinner reheats. I was no longer surprised by his distance, only tired of being surprised by my own need for closeness.
But something shifted in me.
It wasn't about Mark. Not really. He wasn't the story I was. Or maybe, finally, I became one. I started doing little things. Not for Daniel. Not for anyone else. For myself. I painted the spare room. A deep sage green, the color of quiet growth. I joined a local book group and showed up every Thursday with something to say. I started writing again, just in a journal, late at night, in the silence that no longer scared me.
And therapy.
That was new. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Daniel. But I went, week after week. At first, I cried. Then I listened. Eventually, I spoke. Not about the handyman, not about the almost, but about the years before him, the slow erosion of self that I had mistaken for commitment. One evening, Daniel looked up from his phone and asked, "You okay?" The question startled me. Not because he asked, but because I didn't need him to anymore. "I will be," I said. He nodded, not really hearing. That was fine. I stopped trying to fix him. Some nights, when the house is quiet and the lights are low, I think about that rainy afternoon. Not with guilt, but with clarity. Mark didn't break my marriage. He didn't steal anything. He didn't ruin me. What he did, what left me speechless, was show me how far I'd drifted from myself. He held up a mirror, and for the first time in years, I looked. There are days I still feel invisible.
But now I see me.
That's the difference. The world didn't shatter. My marriage didn't explode. But something inside me woke up and chose not to sleep again. So, no, this isn't a story about cheating. It's a story about the edges of it. The places where loneliness becomes louder than vows. Where kindness becomes temptation. Where someone noticing you becomes more dangerous than someone touching you. And in that space, between almost and never, I found something I didn't know I was missing.
Me.